Okay, North, take it away.
Wonderful. Good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining us. Yes, the topic today is protecting yourself against common scams, phishing, vishing, and smishing. Oh my, it's appropriately titled because we're going to talk about all the different ways that attackers can come at you. And by the end of this presentation, we're hopefully going to have you. Um, Build some new defensive tactics and some awareness to be able to protect yourself and fend off as the attacks head your way. So, with that, I'm going to share my screen and we're going to get started. So, with that, there's the title slide. Let's get started here. Slide number one, welcome. First thing you need to understand, I am a cybersecurity professional. I do this all day long. In fact, I started this morning at 6 a.m. doing cybersecurity work. And first keynote is technology is moving faster than it ever has before. Even the pros are having a hard time keeping up. So if this topic makes your head swim, uh, don't feel like you're alone. This is something that the entire industry is struggling with right now to keep up with the new and creative ways that attackers are employing to get to our data. So here's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to do a brief introduction. I'm going to share with you some terms and definitions. Now, that's going to be a very busy slide. Uh, we will be sending out a handout so that you can read this in your own time. There's a lot of terms and definitions that you need to be aware of. And then we're going to talk about smartphones because the majority of us actually get our emails and our texts via smartphone. So you do need to understand how they work so that you can protect yourself against some of these scams. And then we're going to get into the meat of it, the phishing, the vishing, the smishing, and the late arrival, which is quishing. And I wish I was making these terms up, but no, these are actually industry terms, and you'll understand what each of them mean by the end of today. And then in section three, we're going to do some pro tips, and we're going to do some practical exercises. And then part four, we're going to do conclusion, wrap up, and Q&A. So with that, get ready for takeoff. Here we go. My name is North, former U.S. Navy. I'm a 30-year IT professional. That's me. I am a senior information security engineer with Boulder Community Health. That is my job that I do all the live long day. And then I'm also a consultant, trainer, and coach and volunteer with the SCTC group. And I also do own Rocky Mountain Technical Solutions, which is a cybersecurity consulting firm. So, yes, my days are very full, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Now, here's the terms and definitions we were talking about. There's a lot here. Again, these are going to be the handout. You want to get familiar with these so you understand these terms. If you see them in the news or if you hear them in conversation, um, smartphone, cellular connection, Wi-Fi connection, the fish, missing quish. Sounded like I practiced that a few times to be able to fire those off that quickly. And then we've got the tech support scam, probably one of the most common scams, and then grandparent scams, and then romance scams. Those are really, really important as well because those have gained a lot of traction over the past couple of years. So those are the high level terms that you're going to want to understand today. And again, we'll make sure that you have the handout. So let's move in to part one, your smart devices, understanding how they work. Now, your smartphones are really a powerful tool these days. Everybody who has a smartphone um, generally packs a lot of personal and sensitive data into those devices. Lists of contacts, all the applications you use, your banking information, your credit card information, your GPS history, where you go throughout your day, that's stored in your phone, and most of your identity, including medical information in a lot of cases as well. Additionally, your phones are the key to getting into a lot of your online accounts. So think about that for a second. The multi-factor, where you have a six-digit code either emailed or texted to you. Most people get those on their phone. So all this is to say is your smartphone is really, really an important device that you want to protect. And in order to protect it, you need to understand how it works. So let's talk about that real quick. Cell phones 101. There are two ways that your phone connects to the outside world. Number one is the cellular connection. So when you say, hey, that old adage, hey, how many bars do you have? The bars indicate your cellular connection. Now that's going to go through whether it's Verizon, T-Mobile, AT&T, your cellular network. that's going to connect to the tower and feed you data, calls, text, and access to the internet. The other way that your phone connects is through the Wi-Fi. I call it the Wi-Fi Pi. It's just a clever little name there to remember. That is something that you manually have to connect to, whether it's your home Wi-Fi or there's a Wi-Fi at the senior center or wherever you may go. So those are the two ways that your phone connects, either through the cellular network or through Wi-Fi. So the difference between the two is your cellular, you don't have to approve that logging. You don't manually log that in. The second you turn your cell phone on, it connects to the cell tower and away you go. The Wi-Fi, that's the one that you manually have to connect. So both will do the same thing. You'll get the same end result. You'll get calls, texts, and connected to the internet. And that's what we want it to do. So that's the difference between those symbols. It's really good to have that basic understanding. Now, let's talk about Wi-Fi connections and risk before we get into the scams. Wi-Fi connections are, depending on your location, safe or unsafe. A private Wi-Fi connection at your home is generally considered safe because you control that Wi-Fi network, who can get on that Wi-Fi network, and who can access data on that Wi-Fi network. Now, what makes a Wi-Fi unsafe is if it's in a public place that you cannot control who joins that network. That would be an airport, a coffee shop, a library, even the senior center. Even though it's a safe Wi-Fi, that is considered a semi-public Wi-Fi that anybody can jump in and join because they've got the passwords on the wall. So what makes the difference between a safe and unsafe is you personally having control over who can gain access to that Wi-Fi network. So it's not to say that, all public Wi-Fis are inherently dangerous. Just understand that a public Wi-Fi does come with more risk because you may not necessarily know all the devices that are connected to it. So that's why they say the public Wi-Fi is more risky than your home Wi-Fi. Okay, moving on to cellular connection. Again, this is always on. Only disconnects when airplane mode is engaged or turned on, or the phone is powered off. So that's how you control the cellular connection, is either turn it off by activating airplane mode or physically turning the phone off. That's when you disconnect from the cellular tower. Now, something to know about GPS. Smartphones, I don't remember the exact year. I think it was 2004 to 2005. If somebody wants to fact check me on that. GPS has an always on functionality, even if you turn off the device, because there's a little battery that lives on your phone that can help emergency services locate your phone. And that's not 100%. It depends on the make and model, but GPS, the way that they track your phone, if it's on, it's sending a GPS signal out. And there's legitimate reasons for that, again, for emergency services, also to help with, guidance, and if you're using map services to help you guide. But understand that GPS can still send out a ping even if you have your phone turned off in some cases. So understand that GPS is just helping you find that device, which is a really powerful tool. Bottom line is, if it's on, it can be tracked and it can be contacted, but that's okay, because that's why we have cell phones, so we can get texts and phone calls and emails and such. So the trick is, we want to keep these locked down. There's three things that you can do with your cell phone, your smartphone, to keep your data, your information safe. First is turn on biometrics. If you have facial ID or fingerprint ID, turn it on, because pins are easy to crack. Pins are usually 4-digit numbers that you can burn through pretty quickly. So if you've got the ability to turn on biometrics, by all means do so, because it's a very strong security feature. Also, number two is you want to keep your device updated as frequently as possible. Now, even when you turn on automatic updates, you're going to want to go and manually check. I do it once a month just to make sure my devices are as current as possible, because again, in the environment we live in today, updates come probably about once a week, sometimes twice a week, depending on the security issues of what's happening. So let me specify that. Vendors, when they find out security flaws in their devices, will push updates. And so that's why you want to keep checking for those, because even if automatic updates are on, you want to make sure that you're getting those security updates. And lastly, the third thing is all smart devices, whether it's Android or iPhone, has something that's called Find My Device, or it's a GPS location service that not only helps you find your phone if it's lost, but you can also securely or remotely wipe that device as well. So if you do lose your phone or it gets stolen, you can actually wipe all your data off of it. So whether it's an iPhone or an Android, that is the third one. Find My or locate your device is really, really a powerful tool to keep your data secure in case of loss or theft of your smartphone. So with that, part two. Everybody still with me? Awesome. Getting some head nods there. Part two, the psychology of an attack. This is where we're going to talk about phishing, smishing, vishing, quishing, how they're designed and why they work. So let's talk about this. The origin of scams. When did they start? Well, it's a very, very short history from when they started. So man invents communication. That was step one, day one. Later that day, communication begins. Okay. This is how quickly scams started. The very next day, scams began. As soon as we started to learn to communicate with each other, we had people that were trying to take advantage of somebody else, trying to gain from other people that they couldn't do themselves. So scams, they've been around forever because they work. And we'll talk about why they work here in a minute. But what makes a success? Well, that's hard to say together. What makes a successful scam? There's three parts. First part is you have to have a motivated attacker, somebody who wants something. That's not hard to find. Most attackers are heavily motivated, and they're motivated by money. 99, 98% of the time, it's money based. The second part is that attacker has to find a suitable target. So step one is somebody wants to attack somebody else. They need to find a suitable target. And then the third step is lack of capable guardianship. This is really, really important to understand. This is not calling somebody out because they're not capable of doing the things they need to do to keep themselves safe. What this means, lack of capable guardianships, means you can be unaware of the attack type. You can be unaware of tools available to protect yourself. Basically, that is a loophole in the armor because somebody is not paying attention to something. That is what lack of guardianship means. So if you mix those three things, a motivated attacker who finds a suitable target who is improperly protecting themselves, bam, scam, here we go. So that's the three components. So the things that we control are we a suitable target? There may or may not be something that we can control because we are a suitable target by no actions of our own. When we are involved in a data breach and our data is out there, we become suitable targets. So the one thing that we truly can control is capable guardianship. Are we doing everything that we can to protect ourselves? So this is our wheelhouse right here, is capable guardianship. So keeping that in mind, scams have been around forever. Why? Because they work. This is the scammers and criminals out there. This is their full-time job. They spend 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours a day just dreaming up new ways to take money from us. So let's talk about how it starts. We know that we have to have a motivated, we have to have a suitable target and lack of capable guardianship. But how does a scam start? Human emotion. This is where the human condition is our best and worst enemy. Let's talk about exploitable emotions here real quick. There's the big five, we call them. Number one is greed. Oh my gosh, what's that? A Nigerian prince has $3.4 billion just waiting for me. He's been waiting to find me. What? Greed is a really powerful motivator. Another one is curiosity. Third one is urgency. Fourth one is helpfulness. I can't tell you how many times in my testing how I can leverage somebody just wanting to be helpful that allows me as a good guy attacker to exploit a system because they're simply trying to be helpful. And then the fourth one is fear. That's you mix fear and curiosity. That is a powerful, powerful tool. Who here has heard the acronym FOMO? FOMO, fear of missing out. It's a very powerful, powerful driver. Once they tap into your emotions, they quickly pivot to what's called fear, uncertainty, and doubt. These are three psychological triggers that they use to raise your anxiety and stress levels. They want us scared, they want us confused, and they want us uncertain. Why? Great question. Because it's scientifically proven when an elevated state of anxiety or stress, critical thinking skills are incredibly diminished. That's when we start making decisions we normally wouldn't because our ability to critically think goes down the higher stress level we're under. And Anxiety Kitten here absolutely confirms that. So understand that these are tactics and tools that they're going to use against you: fear, uncertainty, and doubt. This is where social engineering comes in. Okay, this is another term you may hear in the news. Social engineering is a $16 word that simply means this is the act of manipulating you to engage in actions that you would normally not engage in. Like, for example, sharing personal information over the phone, or even worse, allowing somebody that you don't know remote access to your computer. That's all social engineering, trying to manipulate you to do things you normally wouldn't do. Now, let's talk about phishing. Everybody knows about phishing. If you don't know about phishing, welcome to 2024. This is one of the most common attacks on the planet right now. It is a malicious email. Malicious emails that are responsible for, again, an incredibly high number of data breaches. 98% of them actually start with phishing emails, and that's as of last year, 2023. 3 in 10, that's a 30% success rate. 3 in 10 phishing emails are clicked on. Phishing attacks can arrive on any connected device. That can be an iPad, that can be a phone, that could be your desktop, your laptop. If it's connected to the internet, phishing, well, let me be specific. If it's connected to the internet and you get your email on that device, phishing attacks can arrive at that device. So prior to 2023, what were the most common ways to spot a fish? And if you want to unmute yourself and just throw out what do you know about how to spot a fish? Is there something that you use to spot a fish?
Strange URL when you
Strange. That's one. That's one.
That's
Anybody else?
poor spelling and grammar.
There we go. Yeah, it's grammar and spelling is the number one. Questionable email addresses, company name and link do not match. That's the questionable URL. And usually urgency about subject matter. 99% of the time, things aren't that urgent. They don't have to be resolved right now or in the next 24 hours. Normally, when you're contacted from a legitimate business, they're like, hey, just want to let you know about this. Take care of it on your own time. You maybe have 30, 60, 90 days. It's very rarely ever, oh my gosh, do this or the world's going to catch on fire in the next 24 hours. So urgency is also a big identifier. Now, here's the challenge that we all face. AI. AI is a wonderful tool for good and a devastating tool for bad. We're going to look at a couple things here. You can no longer trust links or spelling and grammatical errors because humans are no longer writing these emails. LLMs, large language models, AI that specialize in specific languages in English are actually writing these emails. So it's going to be grammatically correct. The punctuation is going to be correct. It's really, really hard to discern with spelling and grammar because of AI. So we can't really trust that anymore. And the other thing is the volume of these attacks. In 2022, the total year was 54.7 billion phishing emails sent or received by people in 2022. 1 year later, that was 3.2 trillion. If we put that on a bar graph or a line graph, that's a hockey stick. So billions. So 1 trillion is 1,000 billion. The numbers are just astronomical. So the issue here is not only are they looking better, we're just getting hammered with 25 times the amount of fish year over year. In 2023, this is an interesting stat, 371 victims in Colorado alone that reported. Now, that's a really important number to understand. 371 victims reported that they fell victim to a phish. Here is an interesting stat that is kind of misleading. That's actually a 57.5% decrease from 2022 to 2023. Can anybody tell me why, even though the number of fish quadrupled and then some, why is the number of victims decreasing? Anybody want to take a guess at that?
Because you've been presenting to them. They know better.
Exactly, exactly. The number one thing that the Colorado Bureau of Investigation is attributing this to is shame. People are no longer reporting that they are victims of phish. So that is the number one reason. I wish it was awareness and I wish it was the training that we're giving, but they're saying that less people are reporting because they're ashamed that they got taken. So that's why that number is dropping significantly. It's not that there's actually less victims. It's just that there's less people reporting. So falls into that. If you see something, say something. But anyway, the key number here is average loss of these 371 victims was $1,125.71. So that's a big hit to the wallet if you get hit by a phish. So this is practical test number one. And there is a right answer here, but the point of this exercise is to show you that it's very difficult to tell the good from the malicious. Does anybody want to yell out a letter A, B, or C, which one is the correct or the safe link? Anybody want to take a stab at this one?
B.
A? That's, again, they all look normal,
B.
but it's actually C. The Amazon link is the one that is the legitimate reference to a legitimate site. If you look at Wells Fargo, if you look at the two L's, those are not L's, that's WE11S. Fargo. So this is actually a phishing site that we took down that was made to look like a Wells Fargo login where you were actually going into a fake site to harvest your credentials. Facebook is one of the most dangerous links out there because attackers are creating sites on Facebook and then creating Facebook links to these malicious redirects that you think you're going to Facebook, but it's actually going someplace else that looks like a Facebook login page. So A and B are actually malicious links that are dangerous. So this exercise is all this is meant to show you is that the human eye can be easily tricked. So be aware. The best state that you can be in today is trust nothing, confirm everything. So you're going to want to make sure that you've got tools in place that will look at every single link because with the number of malicious that's out there, it's very difficult to trust a link. You just, bottom line is you can't tell if it's safe or not. Tips to reduce the chance of getting phished. Let's talk about this. First and foremost, slow down. The reason why phishing is so successful is because for the most part, we're all busy. We're all in a hurry. We get to go and I'm like, oh, that looks like Facebook. Okay, click and the damage is done. Take the time to inspect questionable emails. Take the time to look at the things that don't line up. We call it the sniff test. If the fish smells fishy, then yeah, it probably is. Hover to discover. This is a really important concept. If you have a link in an email, and let me see if I can open up one here real quick. Yeah, so let me just pull this over here real quick. So if there's a link in an email and you hover over it, you can see that URL pops up. I'm not clicking on it. I'm simply moving over it, and we can see that there is a link behind it. That way we can see where it's actually going, and we can identify, is the link going where I expect it to go? And if not, stop. This is a really powerful one as well, especially for friends that get compromised. Because if your friend's email is in your contacts list and somebody sends you an email pretending to be them, your system will go, whoa, hang on. this person is pretending to be Sam, but it's not Sam's email address that I've got on the contacts list. So if you have friends or family that you email with frequently, make sure that their first and last name and email address are in your contacts list so your system can help you identify legitimate emails from people who are pretending to be friends and family. The other one is install a browser guard. This prevents navigation to unsafe sites. So I do not operate online without browser guard, period. And all it is, I'm going to show you what this looks like, is it's just a little extension that you add into your browser that just lives there and it monitors. Let's see if it's going to load up here for me. It's loading. Wonderful. It monitors against ads. It monitors against malware and scams. So the reason why I keep that is because even if I click on a link that turns out to be malicious, it will stop the navigation to that site. It will tell me, nope, that site's a dangerous site, and it will protect me from the oopsie click. So again, that's a really powerful tool to prevent being phished. Install and maintain antivirus. That's a pretty common thing. And get a second opinion. If you're not sure, have someone to call. I think the phrase is when in doubt, reach out. I'm all about rhyming. So if you're unsure, get a second opinion from a friend, a family member. You know, Bobsky loves to look at these things. So Bobsky doesn't do anything else throughout the day. So go ahead and send your questions to Bobsky. He's happy to help you look at a phishing link to see if it's legitimate or not. I'm so glad he didn't unmute quickly. All right. We're going to move on to Vishing. Vishing is voice phishing, also known as scam phone calls. Yes, these names, I wish I could take well, now I wouldn't want to take credit for making up these names because some of these names are a little silly, but Vishing is voice phishing. Scam phone calls can be either incoming or can trick you into calling them. So scam calls, this is unfortunately, because of some legislation that came out in 1984, folks are like, well, why can't the telecom companies stop these scam calls from happening? Well, I did some research on this, and in 1984, there was some legislation passed that required phone carriers to connect 100% of the calls. They cannot pick and choose what to connect and what not to connect. So until some of this legislation is changed, the phone carriers do have the technology to not route these, but there's actually laws on the book right now that require telephone companies, telcos, to connect all calls, regardless of nature. So we're in this kind of a gray area where, yes, the technology exists to block them, and we're getting better, but currently, by law, telephone companies have to connect calls. They're not in the job of deciding which calls should be connected and which shouldn't. So just keep that in mind. That's why we're not making fast progress. Now, currently, there's no way to completely prevent. However, the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, recommends two steps. And this is, hallelujah, thank gosh, our government is here to keep us safe. Hang up and block the caller. That's number one. Not really that effective because they use auto dialers and it's going to be a different number every time. And then number two, you can report the number to www.reportfraud.ftc.gov. Those are the words from the FTC on what you can do to help increase the number of spam call identifiers by reporting the number to the FTC. So really, unfortunately, that's all we can do as consumers to help with the scam call mitigation. Now, what are the most common ones? Tech support scams. I help folks with this specific scam more than any other during the week. Law enforcement scams, that's where, you know, a text or a phone call will come in. Hi, this is Sam from the sheriff's department. Your son is been arrested and he needs $5,000 for bail. That's a law enforcement scam. Anybody who calls you who pretends to be law enforcement, whether it be police, sheriff, FBI, any of that. Grandparent scam, that's a little broader subject there. Grandparent scam is a umbrella category for any scam where the attacker is trying to leverage your emotion to a loved one. It can be a grandson. It can be a son or a daughter. It can be a spouse. It can be a brother or sister. It's, yeah, your sister was in a car accident. We need $5,000 copay for their to perform surgery. That's the umbrella term for a grandparent scam, where they're going to use a loved one's injury or trouble to leverage money out of you. And then finally, the IRS government agency scams. I love those because they're usually hilarious. It's where the IRS or Social Security or some government agency is trying to say, "Hey, something's hung up. You need to send us $500 or whatever to free up your IRS tax return or your Social Security check, your Social Security disbursement." So again, and we're going to talk here in just a minute because I got off a call with Homeland Security literally an hour before this Zoom this morning about election scams that are coming up that are really, really, really going to proliferate or explode over the next few days. So we're going to talk about that here in just a minute once we get to the smishing section. So how do you protect yourself against a Vish or a scam call? Pro tips. This is it. This is really, really, really powerful. I have ended every single scam call that I've ever gotten that was IRS, that was law enforcement, that was a grandparent scam simply by demanding callback details. Legitimate callers will provide you name, callback information, reference information. They will freely give that to you. If this is a scam, they will resist and refuse to give you that information. If they refuse to give you callback information or pressure you to stay on the call, it is 100% a scam, because any government agency or law enforcement, they have a responsibility to identify. If you ask, who are you? What's your badge number? What police department did you say you were with? Get that information, get badge numbers, get callback numbers, and then here's the key. If you want to self-sleuth, call the company or the agency back from the website. You want to navigate to online to find out what their actual contact information from a known good number. Do not call them back from the number that they give you. If the number they give you matches what's the number online, then you can be reasonably confident that you're talking to somebody who's legitimate. So two things. Demand callback information. If it's legitimate, they'll give it. If they fight you on it or resist or pressure you to stay on the call, hang up. It's just that easy. That's how you defend against those. The other thing is you can block unknown callers. There's a setting on both Android and iPhone that allows you to block unknown callers. It will send it right to voicemail. Understand this, that if it's somebody calling that is not in your contacts list, it will automatically go to voicemail. Which if you are expecting a call from a doctor's office or somebody that you don't have in your contacts list, this can prevent them from getting through to you. And if they call in from an unknown number and they don't leave a phone number, then you're going to miss the call. So just that's why I asterisk that, because understand that if you block unknown callers, it can have a negative effect on calls that you may be expecting from legitimate callers. So with that, let's keep it going. Don't answer unknown calls. I make a rule that if I don't know you and your number's not in my phone, you're going to voicemail, period. The other thing that I do with my voicemail is kind of a pro tip here, is I don't give my name in my phone number recording. My voicemail recording is, hi, you've reached 720 da, 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 da. Can't get to the phone right now. If you'd like to leave your name, number, and a brief message, I'll get back to you as soon as I can. I keep it simple. I don't self-identify. So if somebody's calling me, if a scammer is calling me, I'm not going to give them my name in my voicemail. So keep that in mind as well. Don't answer unknown calls. If they're legitimate calls, they'll leave a voicemail. And also contact a resource person. Jot down the details of the call, callback number, name a person, name a company, etc. And then if you have questions, reach out to your resource person. If you have somebody that is helping you identify malicious callers or phish or malicious text, have a conversation with these folks, because again, this is a team sport. No one person can be an island unto themselves and be able to answer all questions, especially when it comes to scam and fraud. So have that contact person. This is really important. And I do want to talk about tech support scams here. Scareware. This is unfortunately a very, very effective scam. If you are navigating throughout the day, and I had somebody yesterday, literally on Facebook, this popped up and we got it resolved in a few minutes. Don't ever, ever, ever call the 800 number on the screen when you see this. This is what's lovingly called a tech support scam. Your computer may be infected. You've got a virus. Call this number to remediate it. Stop what you're doing. Call the SCTC hotline. Call your support person. Call your IT professional. Have them look at it. Make sure that your system hasn't caught or hasn't picked up anything behind the scenes. But this is 110,000%. I can't stress this enough. This is one of the most effective ways for scammers to separate you from your money. When you call in, they're going to go through the process of accessing your computer and then accessing your bank account. So 100% of the time, if you see this pop up, call your support person. Do not call the number on the screen. All right, smishing, SMS phishing, also known as scam texts. Let's talk about these for a second. Escalated during the summer of 2023 with the rise of AI content. Before 2023, they came through, but not with the frequency that they are now. So what is it? The effectiveness of smishing, it's really popular right now because of the effectiveness of it. Now, we just talked about 30% of emails get read. Who here wants to throw out a guess on how many text messages actually get read? From text messages we receive, how many of them do we read as consumers? Anybody want to throw out a number? 98%. 98%. Almost every single text we receive, we read. And that's why they're so effective. That's why this is so dangerous. Here's another stat that was kind of alarming. The level of awareness, and this is a national survey, some pockets of the country are more aware, but less than 35% of the population even knows what a smish or a phishing text is. They didn't even know that was possible. So that means that we as educators and cybersecurity professionals, we've got more work to do. So thank you for joining today. You are now part of that 35%. We're hopefully raising that percentage of awareness just with this class. Now, like scam calls, the FTC says there's only two ways to really prevent them. We can't stop them. It's delete the text and block the sender, and then report to, again, www.reportfraud.ftc.gov. Now, common text scams. These are going to be, we're entering the holiday season, so expect these. These are going to be really exploding over the next couple of months. Package deliveries. Those are going to be either UPS, FedEx, USPS, saying your package is held at the warehouse. Please click here to verify your address. 99.99% of the time, they are going to be scams. In fact, I don't think I've ever actually seen a legitimate one come to my text that I didn't actively sign up for. So understand that as we enter the holiday season, package deliveries are going to be huge. Law enforcement contact. Police department says, hey, you failed to appear for this court appearance. You now have a warrant. Click here to update your information. Job search interview contacts. Those have really blown up this year as well. Hey, I got your number off of LinkedIn, or I got your resume off of Indeed.com. Click here. We'd like to schedule an interview with you. Reply text. These are really, really important. This plays to curiosity. What a reply text is, there's two types. There's one that's you receive a text that says simply hi from a number that you don't know. It's designed to pique your curiosity. You're going to reply and go, hi, who's this? And then they're going to mark you as a live target, and then here comes the fish. So if you get a one word or no word or just a gibberish message from somebody that you don't know, that is a reply text. It's a fish designed to identify you as a target. If you get that, just delete it. Worse yet, don't call the number back to identify who it is. Just delete it, okay? The other half of a reply text is called do me a favor text. Hey, Do you shop at Amazon? I need to talk to you for a second. That can come in the form of an email, but they're now starting to come as scam texts. Or, hey, I'm not home right now. Can you help me out with this? And then you start replying, and then all of a sudden there's a conversation, and they're going to try and lift money from you. So understand there's a difference. There's a reply text where it's simply hi, just trying to pique your curiosity, and then a do me a favor scam where somebody that is going to pretend to be somebody you know asking you to do them a favor. Usually that ends up with, I need you to go out and buy Amazon gift cards, or I need you to go buy Apple gift cards, or something of that nature. So be able to identify those. New one as of this year is fake toll road text. Those are fun. Any state, which is almost every state now that has toll roads, you're going to get a text from that toll company saying, "Hey, you have a late charge for not paying this toll. Please click here to take care of that." This one got so bad earlier this year that the Attorney General of Florida had to make an announcement saying 100% of these texts are scam. The toll road company will not contact you via text to pay your tolls. So those are blowing up as well. And then obviously the IRS texts, as we talked about. And I've got some samples for you here. Hey, this is FedEx. Your package with tracking number GB, and anybody who's worked with FedEx knows that that's not even a FedEx tracking number. Sorry to bother you. You shop Amazon. There's that. Hey, do me a favor text. And then Criminal Investigation Division, IRS, is filing a lawsuit against you. We're going to freeze your Social Security benefits, and otherwise an arrest warrant. USPS, this package has arrived at the warehouse and cannot be delivered. And here's the one that I got yesterday, was UPS. Your tracking number, that's actually a UPS tracking number. And this actually looks like UPS-tracking-ID. It looks like it's UPS, but it's actually a malicious link. So this is what they can look like. These are the different variations of the scam text that you can receive. So just be aware. Again, when in doubt, reach out. If you're not sure, just delete it. So check who sent the text. I'm going to go back real quick because here it's really important. The phone number. Let's see here. So we've got two different phone numbers. But you want to see who sent them. Did it come from a phone number? Did it come from, even worse, a short code that's a 5-digit number that's not actually a phone number? And lastly, did the text come from an email? If the text came from an email address, that's a whole nother level of red flag. Texts are meant to go from cell phone to cell phone, from phone number to phone number. If you're getting a text message from an email address, that should immediately be a red flag, that it's computer generated, that it's not real. So with that, don't click the link. That's worth repeating again. Don't click the link. Forward to a skilled resource or just delete. Report as junk. You can report those text messages as junk. That will work as well. And you can also report to the FTC like we talked about. But again, moral of the story, until you are 100% sure it's a legitimate text, don't click the link. So with that, these types of texts can come in any time, but escalate during the holidays, tax time, and major social events like the election coming this week. So this is my news flash for you. It came straight from Homeland Security this morning. Over the next 7 days, they specified, now, if you work in certain parts of infrastructure like water, healthcare, communications, there is a massive, massive spike in smishing and phishing campaigns made to look like your ballot has not been received or there is an issue with your ballot. If you get a text message or an email from any source right now saying there is an issue with your ballot, they are most likely phishing. And just to give you the numbers, we got over 450,000 of them overnight last night, and they were all scam ballot phishing emails. So just be aware that those are a real thing. Anyway, yeah, so keep an eye out, especially during the election, because we got a really fun couple of months, because we got election right now, then we've got Christmas season. So again, elections and delivery texts and scams are going to be prevalent here. How am I doing on time? Are we going till 11 or 11:30? Do we have 90 minutes?
We can go till 11:30.
Okay. Well, let's do pro tips about the IRS. 5 things to understand about the IRS. They are old school. They do not initiate contact via email or text message or phone call, period. They will only initiate in those forms of communication if you've authorized them via written initial contact letter. So I'm not saying it's out of the realm of possibility, but the IRS will not contact you out of the blue. They will also not demand payment over the phone. That's not how they work, ever. They are not going to initiate contact via text, email, or phone call. They're not going to ask for payment with a gift card or Bitcoin. In fact, I'm going to escalate that. No legitimate service or government entity will ever ask for gift card or Bitcoin payment. If that subject is brought up, you are being scammed 100% of the time. The conversation should be ended if they bring up payment with gift card or Bitcoin. That is really, really important to understand. Also, the IRS will not contact the police to arrest you, ever. The IRS is its own law enforcement agency. They will not contact your municipal police department to come and arrest you for tax violations. That's not how it works. And they will not and cannot revoke your driver's license. So if they leverage those threats against you, understand that it's all fluff. So again, IRS, it's a very common attack because of that fear of you don't want to get in trouble with the IRS. So that brings us to Phishing. This is the new threat that's out there. So Phishing is basically QR code phishing. QR codes exploded during COVID because we couldn't touch menus. So we had to scan these cute little codes that have all these boxes on them to take us to a website or to take us to a menu. Attackers, within weeks of these being used during COVID, they figured out, wait a minute, I can redirect to my malicious site without people even being able to read a website address. So that's what makes QR codes very, very dangerous. Now, during the Super Bowl of 2022, there was a commercial that ran for 60 seconds that was just this QR code that changed color, that bounced across the screen. And that's all it did for 60 seconds. There was no associated information with that. Does anybody want to take a guess at how many people scanned that QR code in 60 seconds? And again, here's that curiosity and FOMO. Anybody want to take a stab? Well,
5 million?
oh, you give
I'd
the
say
American.
200 million.
Oh, that's a good point. It's somewhere in between. It's 20 million scans in 60 seconds.
Wow.
So this was actually a Bitcoin trading firm that did that, but I guarantee attackers are like, wait a minute. I bet if we put a malicious QR code in a commercial during a major sporting event, I could get 20 million victims in 1 minute. Simply because of that fear of missing out and that curiosity. So yeah, 20 million scans in 60 seconds. That was about 10% of the viewer population of the Super Bowl in 2022. So what makes them dangerous is you can't easily see where the code is taking you. The rule of thumb is don't scan an unknown QR code. This is the fastest way to get your device compromised. Now, both phones now, iPhone and Android, do have controls in them. When you scan a QR code, it does pop up a little bubble that says, hey, this is where this is going. Do you mean to go there? But I'm leery, especially if I'm in a bigger city. I don't scan QR codes that I can't identify easily. What I'll do is I'll take a picture of the QR code, and then I'll actually, because I'm a super nerd, I will actually take it to a QR code decoder and see where it's taking me with it before I touch that button and route my device there. So I have some tools, and I can share some tools if anybody really wants to get that far into it. They're online, called QR code decoders, that allows you to snap a picture of the QR code without navigating to it, and then you upload that photo of the QR code to the QR code decoder, and it will tell you exactly where it's going and if it's malicious or not. So that might be a good addition to the handout for the tools, the QR code decoder sites. Note to future us's. All right, that's it. We've talked with the big four. We've got phishing, vishing, smishing, and quishing. Oh my. So you now know all the vectors, or the paths that scammers can come at you. Now let's talk about practical exercises. Let's let's see how much you know. So I'm going to have everybody unmute here. This is where chaos ensues because everybody's mic is going to be hot now. But let's talk about this. Let's test your knowledge. Let's do practical exercise number 1. Let's look at this, and then we're going to answer A, B, or C on this. What type of scam is this? I'm sharing a job opportunity information to students and staff who might be interested in a paid UNICEF part-time job with a weekly paid job of $500.
It's an employment scam.
That's C. That's absolutely right. That is an employment scam. So the way that this works is you're going to send an email to this person at Gmail, and they're going to follow on with, well, this is what you need to do to get this job. If you want this job, you have to send us $100 and blah, 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 blah. So that's how that attack works is you email it and action ensues. Now, let's talk about this practical exercise number 2. What type of scam is this? This one's a little more tricky.
I'll go with financial.
Okay, that's a good guess.
But
So the content of this is harassment, discrimination, and unprofessional conduct. So it's basically somebody pretending to be the HR of your company. And they want you to click here to enter a module and receive a reminder you need to sign into your transcript. What this actually was, this was actually a fish to try and harvest credentials from employees at a company that I consult for. What this is called a malicious redirect. And the way that you can tell is the email came from davita.com. When I hover to discover, it shows that it's going to research-chemicals-kopen.com, a WordPress admin site that does not match the name of the company that the HR department should be with. So this is actually a malicious redirect because they're not talking about money in the scam, but it is absolutely, this is where you look at, okay, Samantha is at davita.com, but she wants me to go to Research Chemicals, which has nothing to do with the company. So this is what a malicious redirect looks like. So again, this is just an exercise to get your brain to start thinking, okay, what am I seeing versus what is actually happening? And then the third one, this is 2-part. What type of attack is this? Smish, fish, or fish?
Smish.
Correct. This is an SMS. This is a text fish. What type of scam is this? Is it a do me a favor, financial fraud, or law enforcement?
hmm,
Kind of tricky.
I would say A, or I would say more A, because they're making you try to think they're doing you a favor type of thing.
Right, right. So a do me a favor is something where they're literally asking you, hey, do you shop at Amazon? Or hey, can you do me a favor? I need you to pick up some Apple gift cards. So a do me a favor is very easy to identify because they're asking you for a favor. In this scenario, if it was law enforcement, it would be something like the police department or the sheriff's department or the FBI. In this case, they're specifically referring to your IRS tax refund,
Ooh.
which is a pending acceptance. So this is actually a smish that is financial fraud because they're going to try and steal your information pertaining to your tax refund. So they're trying to bait you with fear about your finances. Does that make sense? Awesome. All right. So let's do this. This is it. We're at the conclusion. We are at time. I don't think we're going to need to go all the way to 11:30. Here's our defensive strategies. Keys to remember here. Slow down. That's the first and most important part is let's just slow down. Take the time to inspect. Number 2 is hover to discover. Take the time, hover before you click. If you just take your mouse, keep your hands off the buttons, just move your mouse and hover over that link. It'll tell you where it's going. Number 3 is, definitely have some antivirus and browser guard. Those two go hand in hand. Those are going to protect against the oopsie click and make sure that nothing is downloaded. Password managers are important as well, because if you do get victimized by a phish, you can quickly go change your passwords because 9 times out of 10, well, let me rephrase, 3/4 of the time they want your credentials, 1/4 of the time they're going to try and download malware. So most of the time they're going after your passwords. So if you have good password management habits, you can, even if they steal your password because you got phished at 10 a.m., at 10:02, you can hop in your password manager, change that password, and whatever credential that they just phished you for, you can defang them. You can make that password mute. You can make that password irrelevant because you changed it. Because as soon as you realize it was a phish, go to your password manager, change your password, and you're good to go. Also, points of contact, friends, family, or a professional. Backup systems. This is just general good hygiene, good security practice. You want to back up frequently just in case the worst case happens, and frequently is once a quarter or whenever there's a major data change to your system. Like for example, I back up in Q1 of next year, January to March. I will usually hold off until after I do my taxes. So when my documentation is there, I will back up after I do my taxes because it's a major change to the data of my system. So and then lastly, after backups, have a plan. Have a plan in place to help with the response when things happen. Now, discussion points. These attack types are going to continue because they're cost effective. They can generate trillions of these a year at no cost to them or low cost to them, and they work. 3 out of 10 phishing emails, 9 out of 10 text phish are read. The number one defense is awareness. If you are aware that these occur, you are much more likely to be able to defend yourself because you know you can spot it. And the second most important defense is knowing what to do and when to do it. Knowing what to do when you encounter a scam phone call, text message, or an email. So that's number one and number two, awareness and knowing what to do. Unfortunately, there's really no technical controls in place to stop them all. So again, I want to reemphasize, have a resource and a plan. Have someone you can contact and ask for a second opinion. Friends, family, professional IT, SCTC, have a resource, have a plan and process in place before you encounter one of these attacks to help you guide your actions to minimize the chaos. Again, because it's going to be that fear, uncertainty, and doubt. You may have your anxiety level increased, but if you have that point of contact to talk you off the ledge, if you will, I have 2 or 3 that I've got that I'm like, oh my gosh, I think this is a thing. They'll actually help talk me through it and look at it with me to help bring my anxiety level down. I'm a seasoned professional and I still get anxious when I see things that are really, really sophisticated. So even the best of us have these resources. So it's really good to cultivate those resources now before something happens. So as they say, the best time to buy a fire extinguisher is before the fire, not when it starts, right? All right. We're all in this together. Everybody on this call, understand that SCTC is here to help. If you've got questions, concerns, reach out to us via email, phone call. One of us will get back to you to help allay your fears, answer your questions about scams, no matter the way that they come in, QR, text, phone, email. Again, this is a team sport. And that's the only way that we're going to stay ahead of this is as a group, circle the wagons. We're in this together. Any questions?
Must have covered it very, very well.
I was going to say that means I either covered it very well or everybody's microphone is simultaneously failed.
I will reiterate that when in doubt, we're one of the resources that we're definitely here to help you. And we're very fortunate in having someone like North that we can go to when we're kind of stuck on what to do about a given scam or how to solve it.
I'd like to make one comment.
Okay.
At the beginning, when you talked about people are not reporting it anymore, and I totally agree with the shame aspect of it, the shame of admitting that you fell for this and the pain that entails. But I also think that it's difficult to report it. Like calling the local police in a situation I'm aware of, got no response whatsoever. You know, they say go elsewhere. And getting in touch with any 800 number is a total pain. So I'm just saying, I understand why the number is so low for reporting, but I think there needs to be some easier way for people to get help. And yes, we're here and we want to help, but I think it's just a tough situation.
So here's, and I'm going to encourage reporters for the other aspect of this. What reporting does, it doesn't just help with stats. Now, one of the things that I do when folks report a phish of any kind to me, what I do is I go and I actually disable and disassemble the infrastructure that makes that phish work. So that's the other thing that your reporting does. As defenders, we can't tear these sites down if we don't know that they're there. So when you report a phish, it helps us as defenders to go and tear that down. So the next person who gets that phish in their text or in their inbox, it once we destroy that infrastructure, that link, you can click on that link and it won't go anywhere because somebody else reported it. So that's the other aspect of when you report a phish somewhere, helping tear down that infrastructure so the next victim doesn't become a victim. So just wanted to point that out, that when you do report, it is a huge help to not just you, but the community is at large as well.
I guess I'm referring to more the FTC or the Colorado Bureau of Investigation, making those 800 number calls and filling out the form. That adds a lot of stress.
It does. It does. But they do the same thing. The FTC, the CBIC, the CBI. Once you report it, the first thing they go do is they have a process called defanging, where they will go in and literally tear down these sites. So your reporting doesn't help just with stats; it does help identify and tear down the infrastructure. So yes, it's stressful, but it does bring a lot of good when you do report.
Any other
Wonderful.
questions for North or comments?
Um,
Michael has his hand up.
Um, Clarification on your GPS setting on your phone, even if you have your location turned off, is your GPS still on?
So location services, when you turn those off, that's actually for ad tracking. That's more for a privacy situation. What I'm talking about is GPS tracking for emergency services and law enforcement. That's a completely different scenario. That's something that happens below the operating system of the phone. That's actually hard coded. That's hard embedded in the device. And that's what, say, for example, if you're at the 34th floor of a building and something happens, you make a phone call, your phone dies, that phone is still going to ping out that signal, so emergency services know to go. You're at this address at on the 34th floor. So that's what that's for. That's not for tracking. That's specifically for law enforcement and emergency services.
Okay. You mentioned a browser guide. Are those plugins or is that paid service or what?
The plugin for I use Malwarebytes Browser Guard. It's absolutely free. All you need to do is if you use Google or Chrome, or I'm sorry, Chrome or Edge or Firefox, it doesn't matter which browser you use. You simply open that browser and search for Malwarebytes Browser Guard extension, and it will take you to the browser shop, and you can download that. It takes a second or two, and then it automatically, again, what that looks like is it pops up here, and then you can actually control from site to site what's blocked. So you can turn your ad tracker on or off, your malware blocking on or off, or scams. You have individual control over that. So again, that's called Malwarebytes Browser Guard. And I am going to caution you that it is there's a number here. It just lets you know what the website is tracking, what type of data the website is tracking as you live on it. So I love this. I'll do CNN.com simply because this is a great example. Watch what happens to my browser guard, my tracker, because I'm blocking everything that goes through. Watch this number. It jumps from 3 to 54 to 47 to the highest I've ever seen it is 140. So if I click on that, it's going to tell me every single thing that lives on CNN that is tracking, grabbing my data, and routing it. So I'm going to shut that off so that right here, I don't want CNN right now. It's got 52 trackers on that website. if I turn on my ad blockers, my malware and scams, nothing can load on that website that is tracking me or potentially has malicious intent behind it. So that's what makes this so powerful. This is free, but understand that antivirus companies, there are certain ones out there that will actually charge you like $9, $10 a year for this. So it is truly free. You shouldn't be paying for that as an add-on for your antivirus. So
One last thing.
yeah.
Um, can't you use Google Lens to track a QR code if you take a picture of it?
Um, you can, but the problem is when you use Google Lens to shoot the QR code, it's going to navigate to that QR code. So let me see if I can actually.
No, what I'm talking about is if you take a picture of it and use Lens on a desktop or a computer rather than using your phone to do it.
Right. So let's. This is a great idea. Let me just do this. One of the ones that I use is ZXing Decoder Online. So what this does, oops, let's go back here. You take a picture, you choose the file. In this case, give me 1 second. Let me. I'm actually going to do a live demo. This is beyond. I promised that I would show you this. So let's do this here real quick. Give me 1 second.
Hey, while you're doing that, North, the malware extension that you mentioned, is there browsers that have that functionality built in, like Safari?
There are. That's a great question, Bobsky. So if you've got
But I didn't
Windows,
interrupt your flow here, but
oh no, that's fine. That's a great question. Understand that Microsoft and Apple both have this functionality built in, but only as long as you live and you're operating for Microsoft. You have to stay in Edge. If you're
yeah,
in
so
Edge, you've got that protection. The second that you open a Google browser, you're in the wild, wild west.
got it.
Same thing with Apple is if you're an Apple user, stay in Safari because if you go to Chrome or Edge, again, you lose that protection functionality.
Great,
So
thanks. Good
you
answer.
betcha. I use the third party because it doesn't. I can just put it in the browser and I don't have to think about it. It automatically updates. It automatically does what it needs to do in the background. So I want to show you this real quick because I just uploaded a QR code. Let me show you what I do. So this is again, now I'm a security professional that does this all the live long day. So I grab these malicious QR codes for training. And what I did is I just uploaded one, then you hit submit. Okay, and what it does is it tells you exactly where it's going. So I can see right here that this is going to dulge9.com. And it gives me all the information I need about it. And then from here, I can take this URL and then go and break that down and decode it. So or defang it rather. So ZXing Decoder Online. That's the safest way to do it because it just tells you what the URL is. And then from there, you have complete control over if you navigate to that site or not. So to answer your question, Mike, I don't really use Google Lens strictly because I don't want to make an accidental oopsie navigation because of Google's functionality. I know that if I just take a picture of the QR code, I have complete control over whether or not I navigate to that site. So that's the only reason I don't use Google Lens is because I like that granular control because I don't want to accidentally navigate to something I don't want to.
Thank you.
You bet.
Marth, would you stop sharing a second, please?
Certainly.
I'll just mention that our SCTC website, which is longmontsctc.org, will have links to our YouTube channel, which this video will be posted to. And North, if you send me the handouts in the Saturday newsletter, I will include links to that to that video and to the handouts that North used today.
Okay, and I will update those handouts to show the ZXing QR code decoder because I want to make sure that folks have those tools. So that and the Malwarebytes browser guard.
Thank you again.
North, will you send them to me also? Because some people like to receive them in an email.
You got it. I will make sure that both of you have the slides and the handout with the updated information.
Yeah, because mine will be links on Saturday's newsletter. So
Great.
Different people like
Yeah.
it different ways.
yeah,
How do
Mary,
we get the newsletter?
you need to be on our email list.
Mary, you are on our email list.
Oh, thank
So
you.
each Saturday, usually, or sometimes Sunday, you should get an email from us that's the newsletter for the events of the coming week. If you're not receiving that, look in your scam or junk email. Sometimes you need to add that address to the contact list.
Thank you.
Okay, with North, excellent material. Something I didn't know some of those terms, especially the last one. Anyway, we'll end this session. I'm going to stop the recording.